I'm Gavin, and this is MLS Fantasy Picks. Before we get into round 10 picks, here's a quick round 9 recap. And apologies for not posting a video on Monday. I was volunteering an event that evening, so here we are on Tuesday. Alright, so looking at last week, not an awful week. I ended with 108 points for round 9. I had a week rank of 710, and my overall rank is now 107. No change in overall rank from last week. My budget increased from $137.4 million to $140.3 million. What went right? A couple strong bench plays. I almost had Evander as my bench play instead of Santi. I'm glad I went with Santiago Rodriguez. Thanks for that, Joe. Happy with all my midfield as well. Amada, Bossi, Puig, and Paintsel were all good plays. And what went wrong? The Houston game was so close. I watched the whole game and was sure they would end in a clean sheet, but alas. They gave up one chance and Austin capitalized. I also saw Colorado almost kept a clean sheet, and Bombito wasn't an awful play with a 4. I'm not sure how many people felt the wrath of Rodon's -1, but hey, at least I didn't have Reagan 2. I almost did, instead of Bombito. Alright, now let's take a look at the MLS Fantasy Picks leagues. Looking at the MLS Fantasy Picks Open League, shout out to our league leader, Charlotte Cardin, a great score of 119 this week, putting Metonymus Prime in second. Charlotte benefited off of that New York City clean sheet, Yoshida's goal, and Buanga up top. Great picks there. The MLS Fantasy Picks Open League is growing each week, so welcome to everyone who has subscribed or has joined the league. And if you haven't joined the league yet or subscribed, the link to join my league is in the description below. Looking at the head-to-head league, we are down to 8 undefeated teams out of the 100 teams in that league. Well done to everyone in both leagues. Alright, let's get into round 10. Alright, so key considerations for the round. On bye, we've got St. Louis, so keep an eye out for those St. Louis players if you want to use them for your keeperoos, switcheroos, or auto-roos. Also, I just wanted to throw out, there are some big name players returning. One that I did want to call out for maybe some new players this year. So Hector Herrera of Houston is a midfielder. He was very solid, had a great fantasy floor last season, and he came in the game against Austin last week. So keep an eye out. We'll see how, Houston changes it up a bit as Herrera rejoins the squad. Also, for some injuries, yellow cards, red cards, Seattle had those 2 reds, so maybe you'll target some DC players this week. MLS releases a disciplinary summary for each match day, so be sure to check those for any red card or yellow card suspensions. And then for tournaments, we've got the CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Canadian Championship going on. So main focus is the Champions Cup with Columbus, as they are a good team, and Toronto, who is in the Canadian Championship, is not a team we normally focus on for fantasy. So those games are on Wednesday. Keep an eye out who's playing there, as it might help us, get an idea on who's going to be playing this weekend. As always, getting started with keepers. First, I've got Schulte. Columbus are at home against Montreal. Montreal are missing both of their strikers of Joseph Martinez and Kokoro. I don't know if Columbus will be the look. Depends on how full strength they go in Champions Cup this week. So keep an eye out to see if Columbus has their full 11 going here. One I do like more this week is Freeze when NYCFC at home against Charlotte. New York City are on a good trend. Charlotte's trend is not looking so great. So I like this matchup. New York City at home. Freeze could be a good front end or back end of a keeperoo. I think they have the 7:30 game. And then the player I'm looking at probably this week for the front end of a keeperoo is McCarthy. They're away at Austin. Austin aren't looking too great. Even though they are at home, there's a chance of getting a goal. But I do like my 7:30, 8:30 games, a bit more for a clean sheet chance than starting with one of those keepers and then ending up with Larice on the back end of a keeperoo as they're playing Portland. So yeah, I like McCarthy this week. And then you've got Bono at home against Seattle. Do I think DC United will keep the clean sheet? That is a good question. Seattle have struggled. They're going to be missing their, a couple of their defensive starters, so I'm not sure what their strategy is going to look like. Keep an eye out in those lineups. Maybe DC could be a good look. And then, as I said before, you've got Larice at home against Portland. They have the late 10:30 game. I'm only going to recommend him as like the back end of a keeper. I feel like Portland's going to score. LAFC's defense isn't unstoppable, but hey, he's an option. And then last up here, I've got Galese at home against Toronto. Toronto, we thought they were looking pretty good there for a bit, but I think they've come back to the Toronto that we know after a good amount of injuries there, and they're away. So we'll see how Orlando does, but if you don't have too much money, Galese could be a good option for keeper. All right, looking at defenders. So up first, I've got a LA Galaxy defender. So similar to what I mentioned before, you could look at some cheaper options than Yoshida. Yoshida's a bit pricey, but hey, he got a goal last week, so maybe he'll continue to be a threat on those set pieces. And then up next, another more expensive defender is Thorhalson at home against Toronto. So as I said before, Toronto's offense isn't looking great, especially on the road and all those injuries. So Thorhalson has that clean sheet chance, and he's also one to get on the attacking side as well. And then you can't forget Kai Wagner. So Philadelphia are at home. I will be at that game this weekend against Real Salt Lake. So I like Kai. They got some rest. And even though Real Salt Lake are pretty dangerous, maybe Philly doesn't get the clean sheet, but Kai is always there on set pieces and those attacking chances. And then Lennon, they're Atlanta are away at Chicago. You saw how awful Chicago were last weekend, but they also were looking better earlier in the season. So we'll see if they bounce back. Lennon is very expensive, so I don't know if I fit him into my lineup this week, but he's still, a good option, just a bit pricey. I'm looking at the standard pricing. Again, this depends on if Columbus has their starters out, and I don't expect Moreira to keep scoring bangers like he did last week or the week before, but he's a good option. He's an attacking threat, and they're playing against a team that are missing some of their attacking players. Also, I do like Cincinnati at home against Colorado. Colorado are known to score, but if you want, take that chance, see what lineups are looking like. Maybe Celentano's back in net for Cincinnati, could up their chances of a clean sheet. But yeah, I like Yedlin. Again, not too sure about DC's defense, but if you do want to go with them, Herrera could be your guy. Like I said, who knows what the Sounders lineup's going to look like, what their approach will be for this game, missing some of their defenders, but could be a good option. I do like Martin's NYCFC at home against Charlotte. Even if they lose the clean sheet, I still feel like he's one to generate some bonus points, and he's not too expensive. And then, Hollingshead, I think Chanel as well got some minutes last week or might have played the full 90. So, use these LAFC defenders on the back end of, switcheroo, or you could use them, I guess not an auto-roo. But you could switch them out if your bench hits, as they are the late game. So, look at Hollingshead, Chanel, could be some good options. All right, looking at midfield, getting things started. Puig or Paintsel away at Austin. So me personally, I'm liking Paintsel a bit more. I don't know if I'll bench him or start him as they're playing Austin. But watching that game against San Jose, Puig was one to hang back. He's all over the field. Once LA Galaxy get in that final attacking third, it seemed like it was Paintsel, Joveljic, Peck connecting. So those assist and goal creation chances. So I don't know. I like Paintsel. I'm probably going to go with him this week. But Puig is still a good option. Of course, Lucho's at home against Colorado. Crushed it last week away. So, Lucho is still an awesome fantasy option. And then I've got Almada. They're away at Chicago. Chicago aren't looking great. Atlanta are doing well. Hopefully, Giacomakis is back to give Almada some options up top. But he looked great. And I still like Evander. Evander is away at LAFC. Even if you're still not too set on him, he could be someone you put in your lineup, and then I wouldn't want to scrub him, but he's still a late option against LAFC. And I do like Santi Rodriguez at home against Charlotte. He absolutely turned it on last week. Really happy to see him, do well, and NYC are on a good trend. They're in good form, and they're playing against the Charlotte team at home, who's not looking great. And then I've also got Load from Minnesota at home against SKC. So SKC are known to let him some goals, as they've called Peter Vermees out on it a couple times. And Load's in good form. He is the creator. He is fun to watch in Minnesota. So I do like that matchup. And Hani. He's not the Hani that we used to know from a fantasy standpoint, or even just regular standpoint. Nashville haven't looked great, but they are at home against San Jose, which is a good matchup. But yeah, just the stats, they're not looking great for me. He is cheaper if you want, I'm recommending a lot of sort of high-priced guys this week. So if you do need a cheaper midfielder option, Hani's your guy, and they have a good matchup. So he's not an awful shout. I think the same goes with Mr. No Profile pick, Mateusz Bogusz, home against Portland. LAFC, it's hard to tell who's going to hit. Is it Bogusz? Is it Tillman? But yeah, I think he's been on more set pieces recently, and he's not too expensive. Could be a good option. And I've got Forsberg. I feel like he's got a decent floor. They're playing Vancouver, whose defense hasn't looked super strong away. So I do like Forsberg, but I am interested to see, since he's back with Morgan, how those two, who ends up being the bigger fantasy threat. From a budget standpoint, I'm not going to recommend too many guys this week. There's a lot of good options. Like I said, I feel like Hani's your best budget pick, or Bogusz. So yeah, definitely try to spend your money on your midfield this week. And for forwards, I've got Mr. Jovic, away at Austin. So it's the early game. If you want, you could always throw him on the bench. He did decent last week. It is hard to tell who's going to hit on this Galaxy squad, so maybe we'll get an idea. But yeah, still like Jovic this week. And then you can't forget Cucho. Again, as I said with a lot of these Columbus guys, just keep an eye out on what the lineup looks like. Should you go Cucho? Should you not? We'll see how much they play this week against Monterrey in the Champions Cup. And then Benteke. I really like Benteke this week. He's definitely worth the money. Seattle are missing, their couple of their best guys at defense. And I think DC will have a couple of their midfield back. So it's a good matchup for DC's attack. And then Messi, he's Messi. You can't forget him. I know they're away, but they are playing. Who are they playing? New England. New England is not looking great. There was chatter about him potentially not playing due to the turf. But yeah, we'll see. I like Messi a lot this week. It's hard to not like him any week. They're focusing on the regular season. So I like Messi. And then Mr. Bouanga. He wasn't looking great the past couple of weeks. I wasn't a fan of him, but he absolutely performed last week. He's the later game, so you can always scrub him if you need. But he's still got a good matchup against a Portland away squad who aren't great away defensively. And then the standard pricing. I do like Gabriel Peck. As I said earlier about, who's involved in the attacking third when the Galaxy are on the break, Puig was sort of getting things started in the back and then, played it to Paintsel, Jovic, Peck, and they were all connecting in the box. So then, Puig sort of falls off of that assist marker as we're not getting second assist this year for fantasy. So I do like Peck, but as I said, it's a gamble, but Peck is a bit cheaper if you need a cheaper option for that, decent matchup with the early game. Then I've also got Maguire at home against Toronto. Maguire's known to score. He's a proven goal scorer, and they're playing a Toronto away side that's not great defensively. So yeah, depending on if he's starting, Maguire's a decent look. Same thing with GG. If he's starting, I like him against Chicago. Chicago has not looked good, but yeah, they are away as well. So yeah, I like some other options this week, but GG's not too expensive. If he's starting, could be a good look. And then Pookie, or whoever is starting for Minnesota, at home against SKC. As I said before, SKC are known to let in some goals, and Minnesota are looking good, so why not? And budget, similar with the midfield, I recommend spending your money on your forwards and midfields this week. So not a lot of great budget options for forwards this week. And finishing off with our captains, who else but Lionel Messi? If he's starting, it's hard not to captain him. You saw what he did last week, and if you didn't captain him, you were probably not looking too great right now. So yeah, we'll see how Messi looks if he's starting. And I like Lucho. They're at home. Lucho's a great option. He had a great score last week, so I hope he continues that good form. Then it's hard to bet against Bouanga and LAFC at home. He's playing great at home. He's a later game, so a bit risky there. But yeah, Bouanga's always a good look, especially forwards this year for your captain's pick. All right, everyone, that wraps it up this week. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, or join the Open League. If you missed it last week, I did go live, sort of shared my, walkthrough of how I build my team. I'm looking to do another one again on Wednesday night Eastern time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm liking, going live, being able to answer everyone's questions. So yeah, I'll try to do that again Wednesday night, as every week is different. Yeah, hope to see you all there, and good luck this week.